Hi friends, how are we doing today? Hopefully wherever this video finds you, you're doing well. Here where I am, it is a whopping 18 degrees. So you're going to hear my little heater down here in my room running in the background. I'm going to apologize ahead of time, but I am not turning this sucker off. Today we're going to talk about a local case. With the Heidi Broussard case, it reminded me of a local missing pregnant woman. She went missing in August of 2005 and has not been seen or heard from since. And with all the searches and everything that's been done, there is no sign of her. Now, Amanda Jones was just weeks, if not days, from giving birth when she went missing. She got up that morning, got a surprise phone call, went to church, went and met up with this person, and then was never seen again. In December of 2004, Amanda went to a work Christmas party at the Hillsborough Community Civic Center. Now, Hillsborough is just a few miles from my house. Hillsborough is the capital of our county, which is Jefferson County. You can see on the map here where Hillsborough is and where Peebly is. And Peebly is where Amanda's home was. Now, if you want to know where I am, my little town is listed there. I'm in Dittmer, Missouri. Our county is not very big, but we do have about 250,000 people that live here. Now, we do have a lot of areas in this county that, have the subdivisions and the newer neighborhoods that are really up and coming. But when a lot of people think of Jefferson County, it's a very rural, quiet place. Where I live is pretty rural. In my little town, there's literally not one stoplight anywhere. None. Our county is pretty quiet. Nothing big ever really happens here. So Amanda Jones goes to her work Christmas party in December of 2004. She meets this guy named Brian Westfall. They apparently had a good time that night, and eventually it just led to a one-night stand. They're people in their 20s. They're just living their best life. She was a single mother of a 4-year-old daughter at the time. She found out in February that she was actually pregnant. So she gets hold of Brian Westfall and was like, hey, we need to meet up. I need to talk to you. So she meets him at the Hillsborough Civic Center in February and says, I'm pregnant. This is what's going on. And he said, well, I want nothing to do with this. And he offered to pay for an abortion. That was their meeting. She was like, oh, hell no, I'm not dealing with that. So she just figured, I'll just do this all on my own. I'm already raising my 4-year-old daughter. I can definitely kick ass and get this done too. So she starts preparing her home. She's doing everything. She had the nursery all set up. She calls him in the late summer and is like, hey, I'm getting close to my due date. Do you want anything to do with this? And do you want the baby to have your last name? He's like, no, I don't want any part of it. And she's like, fine, okay, we're done with this. She's like, I tried. I've done everything I can. So then we come to the morning of Sunday, August 14th, 2005. She gets a surprise phone call from Brian, who says he wants to meet that afternoon. And she's like, yeah, definitely. Let's have a talk. So they made plans to meet at 1 o'clock at the Hillsborough Civic Center. After her plan to meet him, she has never seen or heard from again. Now, Brian Westfall tells different tales about that day, but it's important to note that he has not spoken to law enforcement or media since that day. He hired a lawyer that night. His girlfriend hired a lawyer the following morning. We're at 14 and a half years and neither one of them are talking. So him being the last person to see her raises a lot of concern and questions, especially given the circumstances. The fact that she was minutes from delivering gives a lot of cause for concern. The family to this day is still searching for answers, still searching for her. There's searches still being conducted. There was one done last summer at the Civic Center. They brought cadaver dogs. They looked all around the property. So I put together this PowerPoint presentation. We're going to go over all the facts, specifically of August 14th, 2005. And then when we get done with that, we're going to chat a little bit more about the case. So the facts as we know them are as follows. August 14, 2005, that morning, Amanda received an unexpected phone call from Brian Westfall asking her to meet him at the Hillsborough Civic Center. She called her dad and said the call was a surprise to her. He said that she sounded excited about it. Amanda went to church with her parents. She later went on to Walgreens and bought a soda and hairspray. She was to meet Brian at 1 o'clock. A relative called her around 1:15 and later said that Amanda seemed flustered and said she couldn't talk. Now, Brian later says that Amanda went back to her car and she was on the phone. Now, Verizon confirmed that the last phone activity was the call from a relative at 1:15 p.m. Witnesses reported seeing Amanda's 1997 Pontiac Sunfire in the parking lot around 4 p.m. with no one inside. Brian Westfall claims he left the property around 5 p.m. and saw Amanda still on the phone inside of her vehicle. Now, when Amanda left church, she told her parents and daughter she'd see them in a couple hours. Her parents started to grow worried around 3:30. The family began calling her cell phone and her house. Her mom searched the phone book, which I think is badass, and started calling every Westfall she could find. She eventually found Brian, and he claimed that he didn't know where she was. Now, Brian told Amanda's parents in various accounts, like we just discussed. He said they went to lunch nearby at Off the Hook, but eventually law enforcement was contacted by early evening. Amanda's car was found in the parking lot at the Civic Center, and Brian Westfall gave police a written statement. Later that night, Westfall retained a lawyer. Westfall's girlfriend, Stephanie Voltrain, hired the same lawyer the following day. Their lawyer is Kevin Roberts. He has no interest in interviews. He maintains Westfall is not the father and had no part in Amanda's disappearance. Brian doesn't deny meeting her that day. He said that Amanda asked him about using the last name for baby Hayden. He said no. He reports that he opened the building for her to use the restroom. After they got done talking, Brian said he went down to work in the horse barn. He said he left around 5:30 and saw Amanda in her car. He did not stop to speak to her. Now, her car had no air conditioner. She would not be sitting in her car for 4 hours in 90-degree plus temperatures. Now, and again, Verizon shows that no calls accepted to her phone after the 1:15 call from a relative. So Verizon is calling bullshit on his story. Westfall said that after he got done at the Civic Center, he went to Hillsborough Fire Department and spoke to the captain. The captain said he was alone, and this meeting was confirmed by law enforcement. Westfall said he then went home. Now, the night before, he requested that his girlfriend bring some Rubbermaid tubs when she comes out on Sunday evening. He said they were for the horse trailer. Stephanie visited Brian for about an hour and left around 8:30 p.m. according to her statement. So they both made statements to law enforcement. After they made their statements, they hired a lawyer and refused to talk. Westfall eventually allowed a consent search of his family property. And like I said, the property is several hundred acres. The search allowed investigators to search only certain areas, not the entire property. Nothing of help was located in the limited areas, no probable cause to get a search warrant, no evidence to say a crime happened at that property. And that's where the law sucks. But the law is the law. Now, Westfall and Voltrain have made no comment to law enforcement or the media since 2005, and they still have the same damn lawyer on retainer. So he's just hanging out waiting for some shit to go down. Now, we can't sit here and point the finger at Brian, even though it's pretty easy to do given what we do know. He's not speaking. He has no interest. His lawyer is pretty much a pain in the ass, in my opinion. Investigators kind of have their hands tied at this point. There's no new leads. There's no new information coming out. Her family still continues to put out flyers, to put out all this information. There was a billboard recently put up on a big interstate, as you can see here. Her dad said every time he drives by it, he cries. I mean, it's just heart-wrenching. It's heart-wrenching what this family is going through. Her sister recently had a baby, and all she wanted to do was call her sister, and she couldn't do that. Her parents are distraught. Their health is failing because of all the stress. It's just sad to know that somebody out there has information, and all fingers and signs point to one person who would have this information. Maybe two if his girlfriend decides to talk again. You know, loose lips sink ships. Somebody's going to have to talk eventually, and I hope it's very soon. This woman deserves justice. Her family deserves peace of mind. If you have any information about this case, the numbers will be listed below, and you'll be able to see them here at the end of the video. I invite you to share this video with everybody you can, everywhere you can. Let's put some pressure on Brian. Let's put pressure on law enforcement to get some new eyes on this case and get it going again. There's a change.org petition. It will be listed in the description box below. They're very close to their goal, and I hope that you would help them get there. I hate that any family has to go through this. And like I said, with the Heidi Broussard case, it reminded me of this. And even though we do have a clue as to what happened to Heidi, here there's no clues leading to what happened to Amanda Jones. My goal today was to just get her face out there, get some more information going. It's vital that anybody that has any information, anybody that was around that area at the time that could have seen anything, to definitely call the numbers listed below and give any tips. Any little bit of information can help, and you never really know what little piece you might have that could just crack this thing wide open. So thank you for joining me today. I hope wherever this video finds you, you're doing great. I appreciate you spending your time with me. If you like this video, give me a big thumbs up. If you haven't already, please hit subscribe. See you when I see you. Bye-bye.
On Sunday, August 14th, 2005, 26-year-old Amanda Jones met Brian Westfall, the man she called the father of her unborn son.
They arranged to meet after she attended church.
Jones was days away from having the baby and hoped Westfall would want to be part of her son's life. They met around 1 that afternoon at the Hillsborough Community Civic Center.
Apparently during that, she asked if she could give the child his last name. She also had a photo album with pictures of a sonogram, some poems, things like that, trying to inspire him to want to be more involved in the child's life. He apparently refuted that he was the father and told her not to use the name.
Westfall told police around 2 p.m. Jones took a call and returned to her car. Westfall said he went back to work at a horse barn on the Civic Center property. Investigators say after 5, Westfall reported as he left the Civic Center, he saw Jones sitting in her car talking on her phone. But phone records show the last call to Jones's phone was at around 1:20. There were no later calls to or from her phone. Witnesses confirm Westfall was at the horse show grounds until around 5.
He came out of the barn when he saw them pull up, appeared to be startled and said, "Oh, I'm down here loading things." One of the witnesses said he found that odd because there was nothing on the trailer.
While witnesses saw Westfall, they did not see Jones.
Brian is the only witness that stated that he saw her in her vehicle at 5 o'clock that night.
It's hard to believe that someone would sit in a 95-degree day in their vehicle.
Because her air conditioning wasn't working.
That is correct.
Okay.
And furthermore, even if it was in that condition, that couldn't be comfortable for that length of time.
When Jones didn't return home, her family called police.
So there were some red flags immediately.
Police found Jones's car, still parked at the Civic Center.
The vehicle was unlocked. However, there was no cell phone, no purse, no keys. There also was no sign of a struggle or any type of foul play within the vehicle.
To this day, after police spoke with Jones's family, they interviewed Westfall.
Initially, he was cooperative in the fact that he gave an initial statement.
And how accurate has that statement determined to have been?
Well, as far as the fact that they were at the horse show grounds vary. Past that, it's anyone's guess.
Detectives asked Westfall to come to the sheriff's office, but he didn't show up. And when he did, Westfall brought his attorney. And detectives say Westfall agreed to a limited search of his home and property if he could lead it.
So Brian Westfall told the law enforcement officers where they could search. So it was a limited search.
But that seems a little backwards.
Well, we didn't have a search warrant. So if you're doing a consensual search, I mean, it's where the consenting party tells you can search it.
While law enforcement was unable to thoroughly search the Westfall property, they were able to rule out many other areas.
That was searched very thoroughly. We had an inordinate amount of manpower doing grid searches, radar, cadaver dog searches. We did everything. We could look for undisturbed earth. We've excavated holes in the area, surveillance, countermeasures at those places in case anyone was to return there for any reason. We had manpower sitting on it. We had electronic surveillance in place.
Westfall and his long-term girlfriend have never spoken to the media and have not spoken to the police since. So when was the last time anybody from a law enforcement capacity has spoken with either of those subjects?
In a true interview capacity, 2005.
Every other person that we wanted to talk to again agreed to be re-interviewed. We would like to speak with Brian Westfall again because he was the last known person to see Amanda. We have tried to set up that interview, but Brian Westfall and his attorney have not agreed to be re-interviewed.
Westfall's attorney tells me he spoke with the authorities when Ms. Jones first went missing and answered all of their questions. He and his family also allowed them to thoroughly search their property without any restriction. He has always denied any involvement in her disappearance.
If you have any information about Amanda Jones' case, please contact the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department at 636-797-5562. You can also contact the St. Louis FBI Field Office at 888-589-2500. Or you can also contact the Q Center for Missing Persons at 910-232-1687 or 910-343-1131. The FBI is also offering a $20,000 reward for any information.